There's new leadership in Atlantic Beach with Mayor Mitch Reeves taking up the gavel on November 9th. The city still faces challenges with its budget, parking in town center, and the Mayport Road corridor. How will Reeves' approach to city government differ from his predecessor? This week on the Island Times News Update, we talk with newly installed Atlantic Beach Mayor Mitch Reeves. Welcome to the Island Times News Update. I'm Tom Patton. We have a special program for you this week, an in-depth conversation with new Atlantic Beach Mayor Mitch Reeves. I spoke with Mayor Reeves in the conference room at the Atlantic Beach City Hall on Veterans Day. Mitch, you ran for mayor 2 years ago. You were unsuccessful, and I've run for an elected office. I know how disheartening that could be. What made you want to run a second time against the same person?
Oh, Tom, a lot of people have asked that question. That's a good one. Sometimes I ask it to myself. But I tell you, I just felt that the city of Atlantic Beach needed a new leader. And my last campaign when I ran, one thing I learned, it was not a loss. The last campaign was not a loss. It was an investment. And I took that investment to the next level during this election. And I'm happy I did it. And I think that we'll be pleased in Atlantic Beach.
What do you think are the most important issues now that are facing the city of Atlantic Beach?
Well, we've got a lot of issues. We've got a lot of zoning issues coming up. We've got the CRA coming up on the Mayport corridor. We've got a lot of different things. But what we need, one of the things I'm really strong about and want to look at is our budget. That's our number one priority as a commission, is to watch the pennies and dollars and cents of our city. And I think that's very important to us right now, to make sure that we're financially stable. And we are, but to make sure that we stay in that same position.
Your tax revenues, like every place pretty much in Florida, are largely based on property taxes. Do you feel like there's an adequate tax base in Atlantic Beach to be able to do the things that the city needs to do?
Absolutely. If you take the priorities wisely and look at the projects that you want to do for the city, I think so, and we have some exciting things, because when the Atlantic Beach Country Club comes in, that's going to bring in about $425,000 in new taxes. And what people have to understand is budgets are not expense accounts. They're budgets, and that's all they are. They're a budget. Doesn't mean go spend the money because you have it. It's a budget. It's not an expense account, and that's what we have to remember. And our city staff needs to remember that. And I hope that I know the new commission understands that.
How do you feel like your leadership style is going to differ from the previous administration?
Well, I think you always want to hope that you do a better job. My plans is to put some things in place. I think that you saw last night when I got sworn in, one of the things we talked about, we're going to have a workshop about setting the procedures to run a meeting. We already have an ordinance that tells us how to run the meeting. And there's certain points in there that's agreed, and we're going to review that. And we're going to review that prior to the meeting on November 23rd. And I think that's important, because we expect our citizens to follow our ordinances, and we expect them to do that. Then they should expect the same from us. So I'm okay if we change anything, but the procedures right now are already set by ordinance. So we need to review that and take some off, make some changes, and then once we set that, then we follow those rules. I am very strong about not having convenience where you just missed the words on it, but the convenience on when you need something, you use it only when you need it. So if you go by the rules, I think we can be better.
The one thing that was discussed at the meeting on Monday night was your proposal to mostly limit members of the commission to speaking twice on an issue for 5 minutes each. Is that one of those things that you feel like you're going to get a lot of pushback on?
No, and I tell you, that was a misunderstanding of what was said, and that's what I was trying to clarify with the other commissioners. And I think if you go back and review it, then I think they understand where I was going. That is totally opposite the issue. The issue is the ordinance says that each commissioner has 5 minutes to speak twice on the same issue. So therefore, what I want to do is I want to make sure if we're going to buy that rule, then we need to follow that rule. And I think the term I was looking at was selective enforcement, is what I meant. I don't want to select it on one commissioner and use the 5-minute rule and then turn around and get accused of some other commissioner saying, well, you let him speak 9 minutes. And so I just want to set that we're all rules. My job is not to set the rules. My job is to manage the rules during the meeting.
When you campaigned, you talked a lot about bringing unity back to the community. Where do you feel like there is disunity in this community, and what do you hope to be able to do to heal that rift?
Well, the first part to start is the commission itself, and unity in the commission. And when I say that, I'm not saying for everybody to agree. What you want to do is have good discussions among each other. You want disagreements. You want to be able to tell your point. So that's the first start. You got to start. It all flows downhill after that. And so if you start in the city, in the commission itself, that we all respect each other and respect everybody's time and their comments, we're all not going to be, that'll be, you will be bringing unity then. That'll be the first thing. The second is we have a lot of smart people that run businesses and live here, retired here. Sometimes they can help us in some of the issues. Sometimes we don't need consultants. Consultants are great, but we have some knowledgeable people that can help us along. And I think that we just have to, I think we start with the commission first, then the community will unite. And I'll tell you something. After last night, the calls I've been receiving since last night's meeting, we're in a healing process, and this community is uniting. Some wonderful calls. So it's going to be really exciting as we move forward.
What do you feel like is the role of the mayor in a strong city manager form of government?
Well, I think the real role is to support the city manager. He runs the city, and also run the meetings. One thing the mayor does, he presides over the meetings, and if we can keep the meetings on level, keep it where we're supposed to be, and not out there, I think we can help. And then what we need to do is we need to work with our city staff. The city manager does run the city, but there's some direction that we can give the city manager to go to. I mean, we can ask for direction. We can say we'd like for you to look in that. And it's his job and his responsibility to do that. That's what he's hired for. And you have to let the city manager run the city. And if the city manager can't run the city, then it's the commission's responsibility to find the correct one.
We're talking with Mitch Reeves, the newly elected mayor of Atlantic Beach, and we'll be back with more in just a moment.
Charlie's Tropic Heating and Air Conditioning in Atlantic Beach offers a full range of residential and commercial heating and air conditioning services. From new installation to replacement and remodeling, Charlie's Tropic Heating and Air Conditioning can keep your home comfortable year-round, and they offer preventive maintenance contracts to keep your system running at peak efficiency. Charlie's Tropic Heating and Air Conditioning is an authorized Bryant dealer and will service all brands. For year-round comfort in your home or business, contact the original Charlie's Tropic Heating and Air Conditioning at 241-1788. Beaches Academy Child Care Center in Jacksonville Beach has been offering affordable, loving child care to families in the Beaches communities for 35 years. Conveniently located on Penman Road, Beaches Academy offers care for children from infants through preschool, with programs that encourage learning and outdoor play. Our affordable tuition means families can get quality child care at a price that fits their budget. Contact Beaches Academy at 246-3885 and schedule a tour of our center. Beaches Academy, the child always comes first.
This is the Island Times News Update. I'm Tom Patton. We're talking with the newly elected Atlantic Beach Mayor, Mitch Reeves. And Mitch, thank you very much for taking some time to join us here today. I want to talk about some specific issues now, and particularly right across the way, there's a police building that is on the verge of being remodeled, redone, expanded, and yet there's already been several sizable cost overruns associated with that project. Where do you see that going? Do you want to go back and take a look at that again? Does it need to be reined in? How do you feel about that project as it stands now?
Well, I think what we need to do is move forward. We're talking about a project that's been going on over 10 years, and several commissions have been involved in it. And Tom, right now I've been briefed by the city manager and the public works director, and I think we're on target. And I think we're pretty well on target. We're talking about somewhere between a $3.3 million project. If you recall, my solution was we had $2.6 million in savings for it. We've saved up for it through different ways, and I said that was the bottom line. And of course, since that bottom line, we've moved up. I think it's under control now. I don't think it's going to take any more money unless some surprise. I mean, the water that we had, that's another issue we have to look at that we just had the other day, but I don't think it's a strong issue. The chief and the city manager working hard. You know, this is going to take about 8 to 12 months to build. It's not something that's going to be right away. So they're in the project right now of moving to save money. We could go rent a building and pay high dollars for another year, but we have some city buildings that we're going to be using. We're going to move, we're going to tighten up some offices, we're going to tighten up City Hall a little bit, we're going to squeeze in. I think the city manager and the chief has worked out a great project to do that. So we're going to save a lot of money in that way. And I think it's the communications. It's easy now with technology, with the help of the Sheriff Williams and the Sheriff's Office. They're going to be moving the communications down there. It's all on the phone. The public won't know that. It won't make a difference because it's all dispatched at no cost to the city. So that's the great relationships that we're building right now with the city of Jacksonville.
There's a parking issue, particularly in Town Center. Neptune Beach is struggling with it. They've had several meetings with the Town Center agency and some of the folks that have some of those major properties that are actually in Neptune Beach. And yet there's a lot of overflow. Employee parking has been a problem for all of the businesses in that Town Center area. Have you had an opportunity to look at the parking issue as it stands right now in Town Center in the Atlantic Beach piece of it? And do you have any suggestions for how it might be easier to find a place to park?
You know, that's a difficult situation. That's been going on some time too. And there is a parking committee that's been working on it, and they're working hard. I think what needs to really be done is they need to get down to the facts of A, B, C, what they want. I think sometimes I've met with them several times prior to being sworn in because I wanted to be briefed to know about what's going on now. I think that there's some things that we need to look at a little tighter with a tighter program. I think sometimes the program changes from time to time or meeting to meeting. And I think once we get that down, I think that we can move forward. Having a parking issue in Town Center actually is a pretty good thing. That means people are coming and business is doing. I think some of the businesses like Ragtime, my daughter works there, she's required to park off-site, and they come and get them and bring them back and forth. So that relieved a lot of parking there. So I think the owners that own the buildings and themselves and the restaurant owners and the different places, they want to work with the city too. And so I think it takes all those. You know, what's funny is you have restaurants that want people to come and eat, sit at a table, move on so they can turn the table over. That's the industry. That's how it works. Well, then you have shops that want you to come in, spend some time. So when you're talking about 2-hour parking, who's going to get that 2 hours? If you eat an hour and 45 minutes, are you going to straight back to your car? If they want that strict 2-hour parking, does that hurt our merchants? So in between, there's got to be some relief there. And I think they're working hard on it. Mm-hmm. I think it needs some more work, and I think. But I will tell you this, Tom. One thing that really needs to happen in this, whatever the outcome is, whatever it may be, it has to be an agreement with Neptune Beach and Atlantic Beach. It can't be like the dogs on the beaches. You know, you can't. You know what I'm speaking about, that, right? You know, if you pass a certain line at a certain time, you can get a ticket. I don't think anybody intended that, but we need to. We're a team together, so we really need both cities to agree before anything's done, that both cities are comfortable with what the plan's going to be.
I know Mayor Pruitt was at the meeting on Monday night. Do you already have a good working relationship with Mayor Pruitt?
Absolutely. I think I have a good working relationship with the mayor. I have a great working relationship with Mayor Latham. And since I was elected, I've had several conversations with Mayor Curry. And it's exciting because we really haven't had a good relationship with downtown. And I just mentioned to you the Sheriff's Office working with us at no cost, working with the chief. It's wonderful that he's been able to work that out. And Mayor Curry's been just as nice. And I think the beaches are now being recognized. But I believe that we can work together.
Another thing that came up at the meeting Monday night was the sign ordinance with the filling station on Atlantic Boulevard that wants to change their sign and still basically not come into compliance with your sign code. Commissioner Hill's recommended that you reopen the entire sign ordinance. This is another issue that has been at the beach for 10, 15 years. Do you want to reopen that sign ordinance and look at making changes in what constitutes a legal sign?
I absolutely do, because there's a public record, and the city attorney mentioned it. I sent him a letter prior to being sworn in about my concerns about a federal court ruling, which was Reed against Gilbert, Arizona, and it's about signs. And I asked, I want to be proactive. I don't want to get caught on somebody filing something against later. So the city attorney's looking into that. So yeah, I think we need to be really proactive, look at it. And I'm going to sit here and tell you, I'm in full agreement. It's public, this will be public, and the meeting was public. If that discussion comes up, and it will come up at the next meeting because we've agreed to discuss it, I think that Commissioner Hill's right on target. I think we have to take another look at that. And I'll give you a good example is try to turn right onto 3rd Street off of Atlantic Boulevard. Walgreens took their sign and put it down, and you can almost hit a pedestrian. So there is, Commissioner Hill's, I think he's right on target, and I think it's serious that we should look at it.
Let's talk for a minute about the Mayport Road corridor, because that's one of those things that you're trying to bring businesses and maybe I don't want to say a better quality of business, but maybe try to make it a little bit more upscale in its appearance and the kinds of businesses that are along the Mayport Road corridor. There was discussion at the meeting Monday night about appointing a panel to look at those things, including the Beaches Chamber of Commerce and some others. What are your thoughts about the Mayport corridor, the Mayport Road corridor, and how it relates to the Mayport CRA that's going to be happening up to the north?
Okay. I think it's very, very important. I think the CRA was a great move by their last commission. Our last commission. I think it was a very good move, and I think we need to move forward with it. I think it's needed to be, and timing is good for us now. One of the decisions, I guess, if the city manager made these decisions, they were great decisions, is we're using the same firm on the CRA that City of Jacksonville is. So we're working together with them. Councilman Gulliford has started the CRA on Mayport. We're going to connect into each other. So it's important for us to be together. Just as I told you about the parking, it's important that we talk about what we want and what Jacksonville, what they want, that we come together and really make that. That is a beautiful area. And I can imagine, I can see businesses coming in there. It's our next growth. And I think it's important. What you were talking about, the advisory board, is actually on the 23rd. Each commissioner will appoint 2 representatives to serve. So over and above them, I think there's 13. I think there's 13 of them, odd number. And even though they won't be voting, it's left at odd number if they could. Some of the positions I took off. I didn't want commissioners to use up their slot to put on people like representative from Mayport Navy Station. I didn't want to use the Chamber of Commerce. I didn't want to use some other ones that needed to be on there. And so that way we filled those. It allows each commissioner to come up with 2 people on the 23rd to be on this advisory. And here's how the advisory works a little bit too. The advisory is only going to be in session for about 8 months. I'll probably give it a 12-month life on it. And just in case, they'll only have 3 meetings out of that whole time. Besides that, what's exciting, it's just not the advisory committee by itself. There's a lot of interviews that's going to go out to other key people that own businesses, live in that area. So there'll be really more interviewing on the outside than within the advisory.
The commission on Monday night passed $200 and some odd thousand to purchase a piece of property on Camellia Street. You had been opposed to that purchase, and you're on the record as having been opposed to that purchase. The deal is not closed yet. Do you intend to try to stand in the way of that deal in any way, or will you let that stand? And if that goes through, is that a good purchase for the city?
Well, first of all, I have publicly said that I'm not in favor of buying that property for more than one reason. One is, what is the purpose? What are we going to do with it? What are we going to do with the house? You know, when the city buys some property, it's not like you and I buying a house and we're going to move in it. We know what we're going to do with it. It's really a city as a business. So buying that property, we're buying another business. What are we going to do with that business? How much is it going to cost us to bring this house up to standards? Handicap. If we wanted a community center, okay? If we don't, what is it going to cost us to tear it down? If we make it a community center, as people recommended, what is the long-term cost of that? You know, have staff to run it, maintenance on it, electricity on it. See, so we're buying another business. We need a plan. Why are we buying it? Not just it is a beautiful property. I love it. I'd love to have a house there and look over the marsh. It's beautiful. But beautiful and the facts that we really need it are two different things. The park itself probably every day has a wonderful parking area. It's 3.5 blocks away. And every day you can go in there, there's probably only 3 cars in there. So if we need another entrance to the park, one of the things people talk about, oh, we got to buy it because it's going to be a great entrance to the park. We own the pumping station there. We own, I believe, 25 feet there. If we want another entrance into the park, then let's build it on our property we already own. And then you have to go over, there's some ponds back there. The ponds are owned by the DOT. So there's some issues there. I think, and this is another move too, the house is in foreclosure. There's a tax lien against it. There's an opportunity. Yes, everybody can make another offer. There's offers to buy anything out there, but I don't think we should rush into making those purchases. Now, with all that said, I'm only one vote. But I am a believer that the new commission should look at this. And I think it should be opened back up with a new, before we even decide to go to closing, that it's opened back up and that the new commission has ideal to review and put their eyes on it and their feedback. I think it's very important because that money's coming out of our budget. It really is coming out of this budget. And so the important thing is I think I personally would like to see it come back up for, and it has to come back up for rediscussion, okay? And by the way, there's no penalty, there really is no penalty if we just say we're not going to closing. I mean, it's not like you and I, there's not any earnest money up, you know? And so I think it's the right thing. I think it needs to have a second look.
One thing more, Mitch, and this may be a little bit of an odd question, but what have you discovered so far that you don't know about this job in the community?
Oh, that's a good question. What is it that I don't know about this job? You know, you learn every day. And I don't know everything about this job. I'm going to learn. Look, last night at that meeting, talking about quick learner, I got some good experience, you know. You're only judged by your peers. I hope I did a good job, and I hope I continue to do a good job. But what I want to do is I just want to try to know that I do the right thing, and I do it in the right way. And there's so many things to learn. There's so many learning. One of the hardest things, really, one of the hardest things really is really the sunshine law. I mean, it's really hard, a city our size, not to be able to talk to another commissioner. I mean, over in Tallahassee, 2 people can talk to each other. 2 representatives can sit down and talk without a public meeting. They're not covered under that. I am, and I'm in a small town of 13,000 people, and I can't talk to another commissioner without a public meeting and going through it. I'm not saying that anybody's hiding anything, but it makes it difficult. And I just took the 4-hour course. And one thing I joked about it, but one of the things that I learned about the course that he taught is that if you're in Publix and you're coming down an aisle and another commissioner's coming down the same aisle, both of you run away as fast as possible, you know. And I get it. I get it. So jokingly, it's funny, but in some ways, it is kind of you know, you just kind of like it. It almost looks like you don't like each other, but it has nothing to do with that. You just don't want somebody thinking that you're meeting with each other and stuff. So.
Well, Mitch, thank you very much for taking some time to talk with us. I really appreciate your time. I wish you the best of luck over the next 2 years. You may need some of that. and I'll see you from the gallery.
Well, Tom, I appreciate it, and thanks so much because I'm always been excited about you starting this online Beach's paper, and I know one day it's going to be a big success, and somebody's going to come write you a big check for it.
I hope so.
Let's do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I want to remind you that the Island Times is always digital, always free at www.theislandtimes.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter to be the first to know about stories published to the Island Times. I'm Tom Patton. Thanks for watching.